And the guy said, "My people said you guys are Antichrist, 666. Now, how can I be paying with
Hey.
faith? Right, right. How can I be paying with faith? This is a mark of the beast, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we never thought about that. Parents needs to do they need to do their job in terms of just helping form the right narrative on the children. But there's also a concept in Yoruba, and you're also Yoruba, and I'm sure you know this. There's a concept around, and I'll say this in Yoruba. We can translate it. The idea around "toba bi ekotura ibi,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and that literally just means yes, we've been given birth to, just do a rebirth of yourself,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
reincarnation, or whatever, but maybe a
Essentially.
rebirth of yourself.
Yeah.
But literally, what that means is some of us have the luxury of having good parents that would wake you up, by the way, at 5 a.m. every single day. At some point, it used to be 4:30, all my childhood. And you
Mm.
spend the first few minutes, the first 1 hour of your day, every single day,
Mm.
from Bible to prayer to everything, and you spend about
Mm.
30 minutes talking and talking and talking, and everything you've done bad yesterday and all that.
Give
During that time,
accounts.
you know, during that time it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna apply the same way for my own kids.
Mm.
But essentially, that from the context of where we are from, right? That helps, right? That helps. And but many of us, not everybody have the luxury of that kind of upbringing, right? And so it's usually important for people to do self-reflection and say, can I? Okay, so I didn't have the best upbringing, right? Can I, you know, now give birth to myself again and say this is the kind of person that I want. And I'm saying this because the idea of impacts literally, apart from the fact that it's selfless, is literally one of the best ways to be outstanding and to stand out in anywhere you are, any field. And it's almost like a cheat code. And here's why I say so. When I was in school, I envy and I love, apart from the psychological effect that it gives to me, or the positive energy and everything. I love when I go into some of these communities and I can still vividly remember them. And those women would come and hug me. I was quite young, nothing. I mean, they would hold me and hug me. And they would say prayers like, you never suffer, you make it. Religion out of it. I mean, a lot of us are not as much religious as we used to be back then anymore. But when you get that level of positivity and you get that level of good kind, very genuine, and someone is saying, because of you now I can feed my child, because of you now I can live. You probably few steps are ahead of a few people. A lot of people may not believe it, but that's the honest truth, because you have the right energy coming to you and you see life in a little bit different way. I've always maintained the idea, and like I said, this came from my mom. Always I have the idea that we're not in this world just to wake up, eat, sleep, work, and go back to sleep again. And before you are 90, it
Check
should be,
out.
you check out, yeah? Which all of us will check out. All of us will check out eventually.
Yeah.
Um, and number two as well, I don't know if you watch some of this, because I do watch some of these clips. You watch some of these clips where you do interviews where some vloggers go interview like people in their 70s and 80s. And by the way, I'm going to connect this dot. I know I'm saying few things, but and they will ask them, what do you regret most in life? And they would tell you, maybe I should have been my better version, I should have done this, I should have done that. So two things, I look at the idea of, I don't want to get to my 70s, 80s, 90s and have a regret to say, maybe I should have helped, maybe I should have sent this person something, maybe I should have been a little bit more. I want to be very old, look back and say, I tried, and smile, I tried, and if that comes, that comes. Those things did birth, even though, like I said, I have very good, childhood and upbringing. It also did. There was a natural rebirth that came in around one. I want to be able to. I don't want to just wake up, eat, sleep, because that's one of the easiest things to do. in the world. And I'm saying this in a very nice, because I know it's very difficult for a lot of people, and there are billions of people that cannot eat and sleep because. So I'm not being yeah, there's business of that. Yeah, so acknowledge that. But on a normal circumstance, when you have the right government and you have the right environment and you have the rights, everybody should be able to sleep and wake and eat and sleep and wake and eat. And every other thing is just from the Maslow hierarchy. And so that's one. And number two as well is some concept of um I don't I want to be able to live very old and say I tried. I won't have everything. I won't get everything. I won't own everything. But I tried. I tried. I did. The least I wish I can do. And that's where the concept of ownership. That's where the concept of the mindset of making impact and all that came in. Very quickly on the other one when it comes to ownership, you're right that we as humans are very transactional. Now it's way it's worse in the concept of Nigeria. It's it's not the best. But then I operate from a perspective. The few things that we're operating. One is I enjoy the idea of delayed gratification. Like I said, there's also another shit code that people don't know. Look into a lot of the best entrepreneurs, the best people. They would rather say, let me don't let me eat the best protein today so that I can eat any food I can next month. I see a lot of young people. I'm still young, but I see a lot of younger people in younger generation where they rather have the best devices, best stuff, best now, now, um, now, and what they do not know. And I'm not saying enjoy when you can enjoy, have fun, but when you're younger and you have the luxury of time, because the only thing you have is luxury of time when you're younger. As you older, when you become older and you have other responsibilities, you have kids, you have wives, you have husbands, you have other families and all that. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of that time anymore, and even your body will tell. When you have the luxury of time, the two things I would strongly recommend that people should focus on, which I did when I was much younger. One is invest in yourself. The best thing you can do is invest in yourself. True education, true language, true network. Just invest in yourself. Don't worry where it's going to come back. Just there's some like I did computer science and education. All my colleagues, because like I said, we were doing half computer courses, which were not really the heavy ones. And no, we're doing like 40% computer and about 60% education. So we're being trained to be a teacher. I started to take I started to take extra courses in computer science. So typically in a semester you have pointing numbers now. You typically you have my colleagues do maybe like 9 courses. I typically take between 13 to 14 every single semester. I would literally go meet my course manager, my course advisor, we call them course advisor, and say, I want to take more computer science course. And they say, this will affect your grade. And that's fine. Because I don't know when I'll use it. Fast forward down the line, I was done with college. My first job was to be an IT manager. After my second job, after my university job. And few months later, my direct line manager got a new job, left, and I was promoted to become the IT manager. Um, and just to state, from the first job I had in college up till now, which I now self-employed, I've never really physically go to a place or virtually do a job interview. It's either be somebody just refer to say, "Hey, Larry, we have a role. We know you're good here. Come get it." So I would strongly say that, and I'm not saying this out of spite. I'm just saying this because I spent a lot of time investing in myself. So I would always recommend that people should invest in themselves, and that's why the ownership thing came in. The second thing would be the delay gratification, like I did say. Just it's going to work. Just delay it right now. And so those two things made me to have less of the old transactional and yeah mantra that people do have. And so it just made it super easy for me to really, really have that ownership perspective of if I own this business, how would I want my employees to interact with me? How would I want my colleagues to talk about me? How would I and I would be that employee that would be the first to go to work. I'll be that employee that would probably complain and also have solutions. I hardly would always point finger to say the leaders are the bad, even till now. Even when I criticize political leaders, I look at it from an angle of, okay, so now I'm done criticizing. What do I think this person could have done? Right? Because it's so easy to criticize, it's so easy to complain, it's so easy to give and take.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
sorry, I don't know if I answered the question, but I know I
No, you did.
went on
You
for too
did.
long.
No, no, you did. And thanks a lot for sharing that. I mean, to be honest, it's a bit scary when as you were sharing and as I'm trying to process it, right? I became a bit scared, and this is what I mean. I'm not sure if your mom or your dad were business people. They were probably just regular folks, right?
But my mom was into business, but not I mean not the scale, the very small
Not
ones.
this, yeah. So when they were raising you, they were not raising you to be a business leader. They
No,
were
no,
just
no.
raising you to be a normal citizen that will contribute to society.
Yes, and a 9 to 5. They were not raising me. There was no business
There was
conversation
no
in the
ambition.
room. Yes,
You
yes,
understand? Let's just raise you to be a good neighbor, right? Somebody
yes,
who can live productively within
yes,
in the community of people, right? And
yes,
will not just be a taker.
yes.
And I'm not sure it would have crossed their imagination, in their wildest imagination, that
Mhm.
some of these little things they are building into you, waking you up very early,
Yeah.
teaching you values, they would not have. There was no way they could have, imagined that these things will have this level of impact,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And now the flip side is the scary part, right? The flip side of that is the scary part, right? And is that if they've taught you to be fraudulent,
Yeah.
if they've now, I'm not sure any sane parent will will go out and say, "I need you to be fraudulent," right? But if they've
But
modeled it
hmm
for you one way or the other, right?
yes,
All of that too will come out,
yes.
perhaps in a at a scale that is significantly higher than whatever they were envisaging, right?
But we're a product of our environment.
Mm.
We're all a product of our environment. What we say, what we see, what we hear, what we even when you sub a lot of sometimes I mean I'm sure this applies to you as well. There's some songs that you know right now that you did not consciously listen to, but because somebody was listening somewhere or it kept playing, you just see that one day someone you're just
Just,
humming the song
just,
yourself.
yeah,
And just like the brain stops developing maybe at age 25. So between age 25 down to age 0, the brain is recording every single event, every
yeah,
single activity. And then you model yourself with that piece of
with
information.
that stuff. Mm.
That's literally what it is. But then, like I did say, there's a concept of you also determining the kind of person
Be
you want to be and the
conscious
kind of
about it.
life, and you have to be conscious about it.
Yeah,
Because no, there's no perfect parent, there's no perfect upbringing, there's no
yeah,
perfect siblings, and sometimes you just want to stick to the ones that are good, and be gracious enough for the ones that are not good, and say, now I'm an adult on my own, and now I should be able to make decisions. And I'm not saying this because this is easy to do. It's
yeah.
not. It's not. But somehow, when you make the tough decisions, you get better for it.
Larry, I can't agree more. To what you just said. I'm totally on the same page with you. Right. The truth of the matter is there is always going to be some form of pain. Right.
Yes.
Either the pain of you know doing it right and doing the
Yes.
right thing, or the pain of not doing it. One way or the other, that pain will suffer. So I think,
Exactly.
yeah, I guess I think your guidance is around us choosing choosing our pain, right? Choosing our poison and say, which one do I want to take? And I totally
Yeah.
by the way, my background is also in education economics, right? So
Oh, okay,
the
nice.
whole the whole nature nurture, thing, and
Hmm.
I how they come together to form who we are. I mean, that was very helpful to see how some of these events have kind of shaped you into the kind of man that you have to, and how one step or at one stage or the other, they continue to shape. Of course, you've been deliberate also, but everything coming together, is as help you to become the kind of man that you are today. And I hope that the entrepreneurs that are going to listen, or even people who will listen who are not necessarily entrepreneurs, right, can take comfort in the fact that I don't have to start a business to impact the world. I can raise my son right. I can raise my daughter right. I can, and they will go on to do something that will impact. I mean, look at what you do today. You verify 3 million, people on a monthly basis, right? If you are one, funny individual, dodgy individual, right? Who would trust you to do that?
To do
Do
the
you get
same
what I
thing, yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Now, let's get into the whole verification. Now that we're talking about
Let's get to
verification,
business.
let's get back into the business, right?
Yes.
Now, about Prembly, right?
Yes.
How did it all start?
Okay. So Prembly in itself started almost accidentally. The initial idea was to do a payment solution. So the whole idea was to do biometric payments. That was the
Biometric
whole,
payments.
yeah, that was the entire concept.
When was
So
this?
this was in 2019.
2019. Okay.
So the idea was you walk into a store and you pay with anything biometrics, face, fingerprint, voice. You don't need your card anymore. You don't need your phone anymore. And all. That was the entire idea. We did it in 2019. 2020, we were done. We were able to connect your
Did you call it Prembly then?
no identity pay. Identity pay. That's what we call it.
Identity pay. Okay.
Identity pay. And so, and of course, if you search identity pay right now on the internet, you probably still see one or two articles on it. So we and I'm not going detail into how challenging it was, how it was so difficult because what we were doing was to replace the 4 digit pin
Okay.
with a biometric
Fingerprint
authenticator.
or
Yeah,
okay, retina
that's what
scan.
we're doing. So we would need to convince the processor, the card processor, that as much as you trust this 4 digit pin, you can also trust biometrics. So what that means is that if you lost your devices, if you go out with the wrong debit card or credit card, you can still do transaction. If you have an emergency, you walk into the hospital, right? They're not saying pay us before 7. Like you literally can just put your finger or your face and you're done. But like I said, we can go into that. That's probably going to be an episode how difficult it was to convince that and how rejectful it was. How the nights that myself and my colleague would go back to home and almost give up. We literally we saw some people that told us that this is never going to work. It's never going to happen. Being able to switch. But 2020 we did it. And I could remember in Surulere in Lagos,
Larry, can I if you don't mind, I know
yeah,
that but can I pause you a little bit there
yeah,
and get you to double click a little bit into that resistance that you
yeah.
experienced, right?
Okay. Mhm.
What would you consider to be the major barrier
Yeah,
then of the of the players? Was it the color of your skin? Was it that they felt you're too young? What was the major pain point that that they articulated to you? And maybe there are some that they didn't articulate to you.
yeah. By the way, I've always been used to ageism. Just
Okay.
fun fact: I started to keep my beard a long time ago because of I wanted to look old. Um, even if you you'll be surprised even when and I'll tell you even when we transitioned to Prembly and we started to sell to banks, I've had meetings where bank executives wouldn't know I'm the CEO, wouldn't know I'm the founder, and they would direct the questions to the elderly person in the meetings. That's my staff.
Yeah.
And when I talk, they would probably just ignore my
Relax,
conversation.
relax, man. Relax, man. let's hear from the boss.
I've had the business executive tell me that you these young people, that's why let me and they had to speak to
Wow.
my older colleagues. So ageism, yeah, being young has always been a thing. I think there's a culture around it,
Yeah.
and I've experienced it more within the sub-Saharan Africa than other part of the
Yeah.
world. But doubling down on the resistance side of things, it wasn't from an ageism perspective. Literally, was just from a I would say, this there's a proverb that says if you and I can't vividly remember the exact word, but I'll paraphrase it where it says if you can't do it, allow somebody else to do it. Um there is just a we've not thought about it. Who are you
Why
to
would
think you
you?
can do it?
I see.
Right? And
I see.
we the regulators haven't thought about it. We the guys even pioneering tech in the country haven't thought about it. We the why do you think you can do it? That's one. Number two is where are you coming from? What have you done? in the
And
past. Well,
in what climb are you talking about? Is
I'm
this
talking,
in
no,
North
I'm talking about
America?
Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about Nigeria. This time I'm talking about Nigeria. Um, I, and those are some of the unspoken body languages that we got, right? And also, just it was almost going to be a, you guys are going to waste my time. So there's a level of disbelief. There was, why would it work? Why, what's going to happen? Do you guys have some millions of dollars? Because like you said, it's very transactional as well. So we didn't have millions of dollars as a back then.
Yeah.
So they probably wouldn't listen. I
Mm.
mean, fast forward when we did Prembly and we raised, over $30 million, and we are doing, just like today, we're doing, millions of dollars in revenue now. It's easier, we can get them to talk now if we want to talk. But back then, but, but, but back but back then, it's transactional. You have to first host them to a launch and all that, and we didn't have it.
Mm.
We would enter our bus to even go to some of these offices in VI and in Abuja back then. So it was a lot of some of these factors, right, that linked up together. And people naturally open the door for those that look like them and probably speak like them. And, they have some confidence in the moment you're an outsider. And I mean this in all sense. If you're seeking, for instance, you need the political elites to help with something. If you're not the politician or you're not connected to a politician, you get some high level of resistance. If you need something within the business community and you've never done business, you've never done anything, you don't know anybody that can vouch for you, you get a high level of resistance. And that was what we faced initially. But we never backed down. We never did back down. There was no point where we did back down. Um, and I think at some point we got so frustrated to a point where we did bets. We told them that, so we had to, by the way, just so that, because I tried to also provide solution. We said, who can we meet that can speak on our behalf, right? And today I try, when people reach out to me, I try to also, when I can, speak on their behalf. Because sometimes we don't leverage that, that we have. We own a lot of leverage. You have leverage. You will speak to someone on behalf of, like, there's some people you probably introduce, and because you introduced me, they would, and and would I say miraculously, or so there was, I was working in an accounting firm, an accounting software firm called Accountia, and so I was head of business for that one, and we had a client. And the client wanted to deploy the software on. She wants to deploy the software on the local. She has an home office, local device, and all that. And naturally, we don't do home visits. We just tell people, "Oh, this is how you do it." We guide them and all that. But I noticed she was an elderly person. It's probably somebody close to 70s. And I'm like, and she was in Maryland, by the way. She was in Maryland. We had our office in VIA, and I was like, "How come over? I'll come set it up for you." Right. And so I left office. Again, this is not our usual practice. But I usually do this, by the way. I usually, like I said, I usually go out of my
Got
way.
on a limb. Yeah, you went
Yeah.
on a limb.
So I left my office, went to Maryland, and we exchanged pleasantries. And from then on, and I was done with the setup, right? How much did she pay? Maybe 12,000 naira or 8,800, because we were charging 3,300 naira every single month for the deployment. So
Set.
because we deployed a
Okay.
couple of, yeah. So it wasn't really significant. Um, Even the cost of me coming was way, even maybe more. But I've always believed in the power of people, by the way, and maybe I
Mm.
can talk into that later on. The power of support system and people.
Mm.
There's nobody, including Donald Trump, including President Tinubu, including anybody.
Mm.
Nobody got to where they got to without people.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later on. And so before you know it, she started to call me about other things. She started to call me, oh, my phone just hanged right now. What can I press? Oh, my son is coming from UK, and he just wants somebody to encourage him when it comes to tech. And I'm like, how the selling software? I became a therapist to, you know,
To mama.
to and so I would go. And just one
Mm.
of those random days you just say, my sister, she was one of the executive of this major bank. my this is the CEO of this bank, and of this bank. And she just started, and that was it. And so one of those days that I was really frustrated, then I went to meet and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know if we can help introduce me to this CEO of this bank." I was like, why not? I was right there in her house, right there in her house. She picked up her phone and she said, "I have a son that needs you. She needs to see you." Like, literally, that's how it happened. And by the way, I never billed her for anything. Usually when I go to help her out, to help her with the software, never billed her for anything. She literally made that introduction. The next day, I went into the banking hall, and that was the first time I knew. By the way, that was the first time I knew that there was something called VIP in banking hall. I entered into the banking hall. I told them the person that I was going to meet. They sent in two people from the head office. Sent in two people downstairs. They took me into an executive lounge, and I was like, "Wait, what did I do?" And from then on, went on. And people were like, "Okay, so how do you know the CEO?" I'm like, "I don't know the CEO." How do you know the CEO? I'm like, "I don't know the CEO." And I had a very short few minutes, and I said, "Sir, we want to do this." He looked at me again and said, "Are you sure?" So I want to do this. And all he had to do was to call the agency that we wanted to, because we wanted to collect BVN, by the way, BVN data, right? And the interswitching guys to say, other than using PIN, use biometrics. And I was like, just give these guys 5 minutes, just help them, let them just test it. That's all he said. And that was what we kicked it. That was all I needed. That was the only thing I needed. That was the only call he just made a call. And the company that we've been trying to go meet, by the way, maybe I'll mention the name, Damalog. Damalog, remember back then when we were doing the BVN enrollment, they were the one doing enrollment and all that. So there was this other company in Nigeria that was, I don't know if they were connected to Damalog, but they were the one helping them do the, right? Yeah, yeah, and all that. And so we tried to get the concept and all that. And we wanted to speak to NIMS. NIMS was the switching companies and all that. And that was it. And that was all we needed. And we went to this other company the next day. Like, okay, guys, let's allow you test it. And so we went on, built the biometric stuff, built the face, went back, and right then in the office they saw payments going. They saw the first one. I can remember. I think it was 10 naira, 100 naira, and we were like, "Sir, you can pay me." We give them this app on our phone, and the guy said, "Okay, I'll transfer money to you." And he took the phone up and he took a selfie, and that was all he needed to do. And 100 naira left. Of course, we couldn't load too much because we didn't have a lot of money. And I was like, okay, he was really shocked. His eyes was you could literally see how shocking it was. And I was like, okay, guys, go test this out. And that was all. We went on. We went to a couple of stores in Sulere. I can remember my co-founder. He lived in Sulere in Ogunlano Drive. I can remember Ogunlano Drive in Sulere. Downstairs, he had a very nice guy that has a store. We're like, Gaffer, let's give you a device. When people are coming, right? When people at the point of checkout, just take their selfie. That's all you need. You don't need their card or anything. Just take their selfie. And so we deployed it on that store again. So excited. Few weeks down the line, nobody used this. Nobody used this technology. Not one single person. It was almost depressing. We're like, wait, this. No, no. Everybody say, wow, this is nice. This is wow, 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 wow. Please, entrepreneurs, don't follow that wow, wow. See, you want people to share your ideas with your family members,
Mm,
and your loved ones. They won't want to discourage you. They would want,
mm.
and don't force them. They want to be there, even though when they know that what you are saying is, and so, and I'm saying this because so years and months of we trying to get that technology to work. Look at how rigorous it was. We launched into the markets as a testing because we wanted to test, and nobody used it. Two
Was ahead
reasons.
of its time. It was ahead of its time.
Yes, two reasons. We got into the shop. Emeka, the guy's name is Emeka. I can really remember. A guy Emeka Alpha. And the guy said, "My people said you guys are Antichrist 666. Now, how can I be
Hey,
paying with fees?
ah,
Right, right. How can I be paying with fees? This is a mark of the beast, right?
yeah.
Um, and we never thought about that. We never thought about the idea that maybe there's a portion in the Bible that says at the end there'll be sheep, some sheep in your skin,
Yeah.
and we're like, how would we convince people that this is the mark of the beasts? And we became the Antichrist. We became the Antichrist for that.
Ah,
And the second flip, which now led us into Prembly, by the way. The second flip was uh, the guy said, okay, and again, I'm not sure that which account are you debiting? If this account does not go, are you going to debit my account? And we're like, wait, how are we going to be sure that we verify this person's account and verify this person
mm,
so that Emeka will be assured? We're like, okay, you know what? Let's do this. We'll raise some money. We'll raise some money. We'll do some education around the mark of the beast. Maybe we can beat down with education, right? And
mm,
convince people. Um, Meanwhile, by the way, I'm going to advise entrepreneurs: don't you need to raise ton of money to change education. If you want to change people's mindset about something, especially something that they are culturally accustomed to. Don't
it's
we
not the
saw,
way to go
it's
for
not the
them
way
to
to go. We
do it.
saw what M-Pesa did in Kenya. People use USSD. Just build around USSD. You saw what MoneyPoint is doing. Like literally, just if people say, "I want your brand to be blue," just change it to blue. Don't argue. If you want to convince them that white is better than blue, you need to probably raise a ton of money. And sometimes in our climbs, you don't have that luxury.
That luxury.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and to see you on the next episode.